Story 1. There is a loud knock at the front door. For no reason, I assume I have unknowingly done something wrong, accidentally committed tax fraud, murdered someone in a fugue state, or forgotten to return a library book in 7th grade, and I am about to be in a lot of trouble. Story 2. When my phone rings out of nowhere, my soul literally leaves my body. Chill, dude, it's just a call. Story 3. We need to talk. No, tell me what. That feels panic-inducing for no reason. Story 4. My anxiety isn't even about what I am thinking. It's just the physical sensations. It appears out of nowhere, no matter what is going on. Story 5. I feel panicked when I am constricted or confined in any way. I cannot even sleep in a sleeping bag without my body going into panic mode. I cannot undergo dental procedures without a hefty dose of nitrous oxide. Story 6. I feel hair on my leg or arm settling after I shift in bed. I just spent $1,200 to exterminate bed bugs. The house and everything in it are clean, but I still have panic attacks when I feel as if something is crawling up my leg. Story 7. They are one of the few people who call me instead of texting, especially when they should be asleep or at work. Story 8. Going to a new place where I cannot use Google Street View to see the exact path to the entrance. Story 9. Accidentally sitting on a toilet when the seat is up. Story 10. Mosquitoes. They're the only insect I flee from. I itch enough with eczema. Fuck off. Story 11. I have post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety, which limit me considerably. Going out in public is something I have to plan days in advance. There are times when I am home and nothing is happening. No phone calls and no one knocking at my door. Yet I can feel my diaphragm tightening, my breathing becoming shallow and labored, and I feel shaky and weak. I have no idea what causes these intense anxiety sensations, but they can last for several hours. Story 12. Autism can be many things and it can be fun. For a serious answer, I react strongly to things that vaguely resemble snakes. I am not afraid of snakes. In fact, I love them. But my heart rate spikes when I see a large coiled power cable or hose out of the corner of my eye, or when I think I hear something hissing. I guess it is a weird instinctual reaction. I do not know where it comes from. Story 13. Someone touching or running a finger along my spinal cord. It just feels so wrong. Story 14. Any flying insect near my mouth, nose, eyes, or ears. Story 15. When my phone alarm rings and I am already awake, it shakes the skin right off me. Story 16. Someone knocked at my door. The boss wants to see me. My card was declined. I accidentally passed gas at the grocery store. Story 17. No, I don't have panic attacks. I become angry, desperate, and anxious when there are spiders or mice in my house. Story 18. I had a friend in high school who would sneak up behind me and startle me. Now, whenever someone approaches from behind, I jump. Story 19. People knocking on my door and my phone ringing trigger me. I think both might be symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, but I am not sure. Story 20. During the summer, when it is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit and the air conditioner does not seem to be working, I hate the heat. Story 21. Grocery shopping. Employees stocking the exact item I need while aisles are blocked by other customers. People are oblivious to being in everyone else's way and stand in the exit checking their receipts. I could keep going, but I hate grocery shopping. Story 22. Accidentally hitting reply all on an email makes my soul leave my body. Story 23. Someone knocking on my door when I'm not expecting anyone. Story 24. I have a severe fear of wasps, known as sphexiphobia. I can have a full panic attack if several are nearby. Story 25. I am uncomfortable with strangers standing behind me. I am not bothered when friends or my coworkers do it, but anyone else and I cannot tolerate it. If I can turn so they are somewhat beside me, that is fine, but someone directly behind me is not acceptable. Story 26. A call in the middle of the night from my dad's number. He rarely calls. Story 27. Any type of necklace or a t-shirt that is too tight around my neck bothers me. When I was younger, I clotheslined myself while ding-dong ditching a house at midnight. They came outside and I ran as fast as I could and went straight into a clothesline. I gave myself a concussion. When I got home with my friend, I could not remember that I had received an Xbox 360 about 6 months earlier. I was completely convinced it was not mine and could not focus on anything. I had a huge scab and bruise across my neck. Ever since then, I cannot tolerate things touching my neck. Story 28. When I do not hear any noise from my dog, I get worried. He is 11 and perfectly healthy, but it still freaks me out when he is so quiet and suddenly appears out of nowhere. He is a border collie and Great Pyrenees mix who has perfected stealth mode. Story 29. A deficiency of magnesium, potassium, or thiamine, also known as vitamin B1, can cause cortisol levels to rise unnecessarily. Story 30. Being outside makes me feel unsafe. My car and apartment are my only safe spaces, and even driving increases my anxiety. The other day I lost my keys and think I left them in the door to my apartment building. I had a full-on panic attack and felt that even in my apartment I was no longer safe and was exposed. After a moment I called a locksmith to reprogram the car fob and change the lock codes so the lost key would not work. I told my landlord what happened. He said he did not know when he could get someone out, so I said I would change the locks myself. He agreed. I went to the store, bought new deadbolts and doorknobs, and installed them. I felt marginally better, but I am still anxious. Story 31. When I do not have my inhaler with me, even though I do not use it very often, I literally feel like I cannot breathe. Story 32. I used to work in retail for 20 years. By the end, I hated customer service, folding clothes, and holiday shopping. Walking into a crowded retail store makes me very anxious. It has been 3 years, and I still prefer to shop online because I cannot get my retail manager's eyes out of my head and I start judging everything. Fuck my life. Story 33. I have medium-length curly hair and sometimes tuck it up to keep it out of the way. When a single hair falls loose and travels down my back, legs, or arms, the sensation creeps me out because it feels like a critter crawling along my skin. Story 34. Unexpectedly stepping in cold liquid or hearing sirens and Amber Alert noises so often trigger an attack so severe I need my medication. Story 35. Someone told me to talk to them later. Why not now? Did I do something wrong? What happened? Is someone dead? Story 36. My phone is ringing, but it doesn't make any noise because it's always on silent. Even seeing that someone is calling makes me feel panicked, and I usually don't answer. Story 37. Hey, do you have 5 to 15 minutes to chat? Story 38. Watching cliff diving or exploring caves makes me nervous. Extreme heights and claustrophobic conditions panic me. Story 39. When someone sends me a text with just my name, I think the worst. Story 40. It's not without reason. When you push a door to enter a room and it stops before swinging as wide as expected, something is likely blocking the swing. Maybe the kids left muddy boots in the doorway, or someone left the bathroom scale in the bathroom door's path. When I was a kid at school, that abrupt, unexpected stop to a bathroom door usually meant a bully was waiting. At my uncle's cottage or one of my uncle's houses, it usually meant he was about to do something to scare me and possibly hurt me slightly, like tickling me too hard or grabbing my arm and twisting me around to face him. A door suddenly stopping triggers an instant fight or flight response. Story 41. I'm allergic to bees. People will kill a snake yet panic over a single bee. Story 42. I sometimes cannot even talk with doctors about procedures or tests without having a vasovagal syncope episode. I hate it. Most people only experience this when they have intravenous access, but I have had episodes while getting eye drops at the eye doctor, when a scope was inserted up my nose by an ear, nose, and throat specialist, while a nurse described the procedure and during a swallowing test when a tube was passed down my esophagus, during the consultation for my wisdom teeth removal, and before receiving a mildly radioactive injection for imaging. Brains are really stupid. Story 43. Loud noises, such as a car or truck door closing, fireworks, a dropped object, and so on. Story 44. I used to have them until I started taking a beta blocker. Story 45. When my cesarean section scar is touched, I almost cry when I wash in the shower. Story 46. When my phone slips between the couch cushions and I can't feel it for 2 seconds. Story 47. When I am listening to a true crime podcast with earbuds and someone suddenly appears behind me, it is the delivery person. Story 48. People dressed in full-body character costumes like Teletubbies. They were sweating, shaking, and appeared anxious. Story 49. When I'm in my bed in winter and it's raining outside, I don't know why, but I'm so happy I have a panic attack. Story 50. Squishy toys. The texture makes me scream. It is so bizarre. Story 51. There are a lot of things I stopped noticing. I legitimately get scared by anything. It's almost normal now. Story 52. I am very particular about the way certain cake pans feel. Unfortunately, they have a great record of preventing sticking, so I use them almost exclusively. I hate every second of touching them. Story 53. When I am sensory overstimulated, I usually have a high tolerance and can filter out repetitive noises such as a dog barking, a baby crying, or strong smells. However, if I reach my limit and someone touches me, I will have a panic attack. For example, if a child repeatedly tries to jump on or touch me with no sense of boundaries, or if a dog keeps jumping up on me in a busy place. Story 54. Someone being too descriptive about an injury, surgery, or similar medical details. Story 55. I had a terrible nightmare. When I woke up, my body was motionless. Story 56. Wasps and hornets. Also box elder bugs, because the buzzing of their wings sounds exactly like an angry wasp. Story 57. The Outlook notification always sends shivers down my spine. Story 58. I can pick up overtime at work, and sometimes it is last-minute overtime where our scheduling department calls and wakes me up to come in. It is voluntary, and if I have gone to the trouble of signing up and turning the ringer on my phone, which is otherwise always silenced, I want to be called and woken at 4 a.m. for a 5 a.m. shift. I have assigned our scheduler's numbers a peaceful ringtone. My phone alarm normally wakes me for the day. I have had this job for several years and pick up overtime a couple of times a month. However, every time I receive a last-minute overtime call, it triggers an adrenaline rush that leaves me shaky and tense for the next several minutes. I find myself trembling in the bathroom as I brush my teeth. I do not know why my body reacts this way, but it does. Story 59. A single notification sound from a group chat I had forgotten I joined. Story 60. I am not sure this answer is appropriate for the question, but I sometimes have a panic reaction to perceived threats that later turn out to be worth considering and overcoming. Other times I start to panic and, when I sit with it and reflect, I cannot find any source for it, so it is nothing at all. In those moments I remember that I am a witness to the rise and fall of energy. I try to honor myself and feel privileged by that opportunity. I wait and let the panic rise and fall, as it always does. I feel lucky that I do not get worked up over small things. Sometimes I panic over a potential future threat that never materializes, and even then I benefit because I end up with a set of contingency plans. It is almost like running a fire drill. When a real threat appears, I am prepared with my first plans for dealing with it. Story 61. My 3-year-old is using an appropriately sized, well-built swing set. Story 62. I received my workplace's version of Employee of the Month. My manager, without telling me, marched me downstairs and announced it over the public address system. I considered starting my life over in another city as I broke out in full-blown sweats, my heart racing dangerously, and I could only nod as people congratulated me. Story 63. I am afraid of computers malfunctioning and of those old monotone text-to-speech voices. My first panic attack occurred when I was a child and my dad was on hold with the bank on speakerphone because of that voice. They make me very afraid, and my surgeons and doctors' offices use them on the phone. Story 64. When I walk into a spider web, even a single strand across my face or arm that I did not see, I turn into a spasmodic ninja. Story 65. Hearing children cry during shows makes me restless and uneasy. When I watch a show and a child in the background is crying or a baby is fussing, I immediately feel like I am on my tiptoes and that there is a task I need to be completing. Story 66. I never lost the Moro reflex. Getting startled is distressing. My whole body jerks. Story 67. When a jet flies overhead, I think it is the beginning of the war and that my house is about to be torpedoed. Story 68. I cannot smell or touch mayonnaise. There were a few times I had to work with mayonnaise on a job, but only under duress, and I was always a wreck afterward. Story 69. My alarm. Every day I wake up for work, panicking just to make sure I did not oversleep. Story 70. When my boyfriend rubs the same spot on my arm over and over, I'm ready to fight him after about 10 seconds and start screaming after 30 seconds. Story 71. When there are application updates that initially show about 4.6 megabytes, they may show 55 megabytes once the update starts. Story 72. Any man yelling a curse word causes an instant drop in my stomach. Story 73. When cars backfire, my brain interprets the sound as gunfire. Story 74. Any disruption when I'm out in public, from a screaming child or unwanted attention to someone placing items on a checkout belt aggressively, can trigger it. My whole body feels as if I am falling. I experience crippling brain fog, and my freeze response leaves me immobilized for a few seconds. The experiences are so intense and disturbing that I am discouraged from going out in public much anymore because I feel something will happen eventually. I would not say it is for no reason, though. Story 75. My mom texts asking if I can talk. She always texts or calls, so when she asks, I immediately think something bad has happened. Story 76. Bugs inside. I have a severe phobia, and it is so annoying and debilitating. I know it is smaller than me, but that is why it is a phobia. Story 77. Both parents sit at the table and say, "Come here so we can talk for a minute, or we need to have a discussion later," without giving any hint about what it is. After that, my mind will not stop thinking about it. Every worst-case scenario runs through my head and I mentally torture myself until I sweat. My hands shake, my heart drops, and my stomach churns like a roller coaster. I feel like I am going to wet myself, even when I do not need to, until the conversation happens. Story 78. As a professional trucker, a tight parking spot where I have to back into the dock without a clear view makes me feel sick to my stomach. I can do it, but it's still mentally taxing. Story 79. Someone took my picture and posted it on the internet. I had a stalker at university and cannot get over it. Story 80. I have to get my mail and take my trash cans in and out. My neighbors are all retired and chatty. I am neither. Story 81. It is surprising how many of us have bodies reacting like this. I have been learning how to calm mine recently, and it is wild how much difference it makes. Story 82. Seeing my mother is painful. She abused me severely. It does not matter if she only wants to say hello. Story 83. While sleeping, nocturnal panic attacks are very strange. I wake up absolutely convinced that something terrible is happening, without even having a bad dream. You would think it would be easier to calm down when you know it is purely a chemical reaction in your body, yet it is not. Story 84. When I hear that dreaded glugging sound while peacefully asleep at night, I always shoot out of bed in a panic to find which of my cats on the carpet is trying to vomit. Story 85. I sit in the middle seat, like in a car between two people. Every time I do, I start sweating heavily, cannot breathe properly, and feel like I will pass out. Story 86. I do not have a clue why. It is simple. I squashed it last night. Story 87. The work computer is not doing what I expect it to. It's fucking ridiculous. I sweat and shake. I want to cry and quit my job. My boss is now used to the intense meltdowns when I have to do administrative tasks. He leaves me alone until I'm over it, and then we laugh about why I'm more afraid of the iMac than the local meatheads. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.